3 coins, 3 years, and one chilling story buried in pocket change. In 1952, a Lincoln penny slipped through American hands while the Cold War whispered fear into every home. That same metal watched history breathe, unnoticed, unvalued, and forgotten. Across the ocean in 1938, a British penny rang against the edge of war. The calm before Europe collapsed. It jingled in coats worn by people who had no idea what tomorrow would bring. Then came 1979, a Washington quarter born in a year of tension, oil crises, and global uncertainty. Each coin looked ordinary, dull, harmless. But coins don't just carry value. They carry memories. They pass through thousands of hands, collecting silent stories. A worker's last wage, a child's first savings, a soldier's goodbye. These 3 coins never met, yet their timelines echo the same warning. Empires rise, nations tremble, and people change. But metal survives. What if the coins in your pocket have seen more than you think? What if they've outlived fear, war, and hope itself? History isn't only written in books. Sometimes it hides in copper and silver, waiting, watching, for you to finally notice. The story of the 1952 wheat penny begins in the heart of American history, when the Lincoln cent design featuring the famous wheat reverse was still a symbol of national pride and economic recovery. The wheat penny, as collectors call it, was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, designed by Victor David Brenner, whose initials VDB can be found on some early issues. The coin was meant to honor Lincoln's legacy and mark a new chapter in American coinage, as it was the first U.S. cent to bear the image of an actual person. By 1952, the wheat penny had already become a familiar piece of American life, circulating through the hands of millions. During a time when the nation was recovering from World War II and moving into an era of prosperity and change, the coin was struck at 3 mints that year: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and each mint left its small mark, either none for Philadelphia, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. These mint marks today are key for collectors who study every detail of these coins. The composition of the 1952 wheat penny remained the same as in earlier years: 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, a rich red-brown alloy that gave the coin its classic color. The penny measured 19 millimeters in diameter and weighed 3.11 grams, made of solid metal, unlike the later copper-plated zinc pennies that would appear decades later. The sound of the coin clinking against others in a pocket or cash register was a familiar part of daily life in 1952 America, when a single cent could still buy a piece of candy or contribute to a newspaper purchase. The design itself carried deep meaning. On the front, the portrait of Abraham Lincoln looked rightward, a symbol of leadership, honesty, and hope. The word liberty stood beside him, and the phrase, "In God we trust," curved above his head, reminding Americans of the values their nation held dear. Below the portrait sat the date, 1952, and sometimes the small mint mark. The reverse side displayed 2 wheat stalks curving inward like arms, holding the words "1 cent, United States of America," and the phrase "E pluribus unum," from many one. The wheat ears represented American agriculture and the hard-working spirit that had helped the country grow from its early days. When these pennies rolled off the presses in 1952, America was experiencing the dawn of the modern age. Families were buying new homes thanks to the GI Bill. Children were watching early television shows, and cars were becoming a symbol of freedom and success. In that atmosphere, the humble penny still carried the face of Lincoln, the man who had preserved the Union and ended slavery. It was a reminder of history in a pocket of change. The Philadelphia Mint produced the largest number of 1952 wheat pennies, more than 186 million pieces. The Denver Mint followed with over 400 million, making the 1952 D penny the most common of the 3. The San Francisco Mint made fewer, around 137 million. These numbers may seem large, but over time millions of coins were worn down, lost, melted, or simply forgotten, making well-preserved examples a treasure today. Collectors prize the 1952 wheat penny not only for its design and history, but also for the variations and conditions that affect its value. Some pennies from that year have doubled die errors, where the lettering or date appears slightly doubled under magnification, caused by a misalignment in the die during production. Others may show repunched mint marks, tiny signs that the mint mark was stamped more than once. All these small details turn an ordinary penny into a fascinating piece of history for numismatists who study and collect coins. A typical circulated 1952 penny found in pocket change might be worth only a few cents above its face value, but if it is uncirculated with its original red luster, it could fetch several dollars or even more. Rare varieties and high-grade specimens, graded by professional coin services, can command prices in the hundreds especially, those with near-perfect surfaces free of scratches or spots. To understand why collectors value the 1952 wheat penny, it helps to see it as part of a larger story. The wheat penny series ran from 1909 until 1958, a long era that spanned 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and the rise of the United States as a global power. Every coin tells a piece of that journey. The 1952 issue stands near the end of the wheat penny's life, only 6 years before the reverse. Design would change to the Lincoln Memorial in 1959, marking the coin's 50th anniversary. During the 1950s, the United States Mint began improving production methods, adopting newer presses, and refining die-making technology. The coins of that decade generally have sharper details and cleaner strikes than earlier wartime issues which had suffered from metal shortages. In 1952, the copper used came mostly from domestic sources since the wartime. Restrictions were long gone. The quality of metal and the precision of minting gave these coins a bright finish that collectors still appreciate. If you hold a 1952 penny today, you hold a link to that post-war optimism. Each coin may have. As the decades passed, the wheat penny became part of daily life through the Roaring Twenties, the Great Depression, and both world wars. During the 1930s, when times were hard, a penny meant something real. It could buy food or save toward something important. During World War II, the mint even changed the composition of the penny to zinc-coated steel in 1943, because copper was needed for bullets and shell casings. When the war ended, the mint returned to copper, and by 1952, America was back to stability and growth. The early 1950s were years of optimism. Dwight D. Eisenhower had been elected president, and the nation was embracing the post-war boom. Suburbs were growing, cars were rolling off assembly lines, televisions were entering homes, and the economy was thriving. The 1952 penny circulated in that world of progress and confidence, yet it still carried the image of the man who had led the country through its darkest hour. It was a bridge between past and present, between the struggles of the Civil War and the prosperity of the modern age. At the time, coins were still struck using large mechanical presses. Each blank copper planchet was carefully fed into the press, where 2 steel dies, one bearing the obverse with Lincoln's portrait, and one bearing the reverse with the wheat design, came together under tons of pressure, stamping the design into the metal. Each mint operated independently, and each produced slightly different characteristics in strike and color. Denver coins often showed sharper mint marks, while San Francisco coins tended to have a darker tone. The Philadelphia Mint produced the most coins and was known for its smooth, even surfaces. Even though the 1952 penny was common in circulation, collectors of that era were already beginning to save rolls of uncirculated cents from banks and post offices, knowing that the wheat reverse might eventually be replaced. By the mid-1950s, these collectors were proven right, as plans were already underway to design a new reverse for the coin that would debut in 1959, featuring the Lincoln Memorial. For many Americans, the history of the British one-penny coin of 1938 begins in a period of transition for the United Kingdom as the nation stood at the edge of dramatic global change and at the end of a long royal era. The 1938 penny is closely tied to the final years of the reign of King George VI and represents an important moment in the evolution of British coinage. As Britain moved through the interwar era, the penny remained one of the most familiar coins in everyday life, circulating in huge numbers across the country and playing a crucial role in daily transactions. Before decimalization, the penny was part of a monetary system built on the pound, shilling, and pence structure, and people depended on the penny for food purchases, transportation, communication, and savings, creating a strong social and economic connection between the coin and daily British life. The 1938 penny carries the portrait of King George VI, who became king unexpectedly in 1936 after the abdication crisis of King Edward VIII. George VI's reign was marked by a commitment to stability, dignity, and the restoration of public confidence in the monarchy after a period of uncertainty. The portrait on the coin was designed by Thomas Humphrey Paget, an artist known for capturing the calm seriousness of George VI. His portrait reflects composure, strength, and a steady leadership that resonated deeply with the British public. The obverse inscription includes the Latin legend representing George VI as King and Emperor of India, a reminder that the British Empire was still vast and influential in 1938, although the winds of political independence were growing stronger in many regions. On the reverse, the design of the 1938 penny features Britannia, the long-standing symbol of Britain appearing seated with her shield and trident. Her presence on the penny dates back to the late 17th century, and throughout the centuries, Britannia has become an important national emblem representing protection, maritime strength, and British unity. The design, by Leonard Charles Wyon, which had been used for decades, remained a reassuring and familiar sight for millions of people in the United Kingdom. The imagery symbolized a nation with a powerful naval heritage and a long tradition of defending its borders and interests across the seas. For many people, the penny was more than a coin. It served as a small daily reminder of British identity and national pride. The year 1938 sits at a critical moment in world history. Europe was moving closer to the outbreak of the Second World War, and tensions were rising rapidly across the continent. Britain was rearming, politically cautious, and preparing for the possibility of conflict while still trying to maintain a sense of normal life. The production of the 1938 penny reflects this atmosphere of seriousness and preparation. Although the Royal Mint maintained regular coinage operations, the broader environment of uncertainty influenced the movement and management of metals and the economy as a whole. The pennies of this period were struck in bronze, a durable alloy that had been used for many years, and the quality of striking remained consistent with earlier issues. The mintage of the 1938 penny was relatively moderate compared to some earlier years, which makes it an interesting piece for collectors today. While it is not the rarest penny of the George VI era, the coin still holds considerable historical value because it represents the final years before the outbreak of World War II. Collectors often view the 1938 penny as a connection to the everyday lives of people just before Britain entered one of the most challenging periods in its history. During the war years, metal shortages and changing economic priorities would affect coin production, making pre-war coins, like the 1938 issue, meaningful reminders of a more stable time. In daily use, the 1938 penny circulated widely across markets, shops, factories, railways, and ports. People used pennies for newspapers, letters, bus fares, sweets, and many other small purchases. Each coin passed through thousands of hands, carrying stories of working families, children, shoppers, travelers, and laborers. The penny served as a shared link between people across all regions and backgrounds, and because it was large and distinct in size, it often felt like a substantial coin, despite its low monetary value. The warm tone of its bronze alloy and the Familiar sound of its weight made it instantly recognizable across generations. The legacy of the 1938 penny extends beyond its monetary function. It is a cultural artifact representing British resilience, tradition, and continuity. Coin collectors, historians, and enthusiasts appreciate the 1938 penny for its artistic design, its historical significance, and its connection to the broader narrative of the United Kingdom on the brink of war. With the later transition to decimal currency in 1971, the old penny system came to an end, but coins like the 1938 penny retain their charm and importance because they reflect a time when craftsmanship, symbolism, and national identity played a powerful role in coin design. In summary, the British one-penny coin of 1938 stands as a meaningful symbol of a nation preparing for profound change. It captures the spirit of the late 1930s through its portrait of George VI, its classic Britannia reverse, and its connection to the economic and social fabric of Britain. Before the world was reshaped by conflict, this coin circulated in everyday hands, leaving behind a lasting legacy. And today it continues to inspire interest, admiration, and a deeper appreciation for British history and its enduring coinage traditions. To expand the story of the British one-penny coin of 1938, it is important to look deeper into the world in which this coin existed and the wider forces shaping British society, economy, and culture at the time. The penny of 1938 was part of a monetary system that had roots stretching back centuries, and although the coin itself was only one small denomination, it represented continuity in a world that was rapidly changing. As the British Empire was still extensive in the late 1930s, the penny circulated not only in the United Kingdom, but also in various territories where British currency influenced trade and daily transactions. This made the 1938 penny not only a national symbol, but also a quiet participant in the vast network of global commerce that Britain oversaw. The bronze alloy used for the penny tells another part of the historical story. Bronze pennies had been in circulation since 1860 when Queen Victoria introduced the new, smaller bronze coinage, replacing the older copper coins. The choice of bronze was based on durability, economy, and practicality, and by the time of George VI, the formula and striking techniques had been refined through decades of minting. This meant that the 1938 penny was part of a long and well-established tradition of craftsmanship at the Royal Mint. Every coin was struck with precision using dies engraved by experienced artists and technicians, ensuring consistency in detail and quality. This attention to craftsmanship gives the 1938 penny its enduring appeal among collectors today. The history of the Washington Quarter in 1979 begins with the roots of the series itself, which was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design by sculptor John Flanagan featured a left-facing portrait of Washington on the obverse, while the reverse showed the heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, a symbol of national pride and strength. By the time 1979 arrived, the Washington Quarter had already become one of the most familiar and widely circulating coins in the United States, known for its consistency, durability, and everyday usefulness. The year 1979 stands out as a point in modern coinage when the U.S. Mint was transitioning toward more efficient production methods, adapting to changing metal compositions, and meeting the needs of a growing economy. In 1979, the Washington Quarter continued to be struck in the copper-nickel-clad composition first introduced in 1965 after silver was removed from regular circulation coins. This clad composition used an inner core of pure copper surrounded by outer layers of copper-nickel, giving the coin its recognizable silvery appearance while reducing production costs. The shift away from silver more than a decade earlier had stabilized by 1979, but collectors and the public still often compared the sound weight and shine of clad quarters with the earlier silver versions. The 1979 quarter remained part of the long-running series, where millions were minted and quickly spread into commerce across the nation. During this year, the U.S. Mint operated at three primary locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Denver struck the bulk of the circulating 1979 quarters, while San Francisco focused on proof coinage for collectors. The Philadelphia Mint coins carried no mint mark. Denver coins displayed the D mint mark, and the San Francisco proof quarters featured the S mint mark, the Philadelphia. Mint produced hundreds of millions of these quarters to support heavy daily demand in trade vending, transportation, and general commerce, making the 1979 issue one of the more common dates in the modern series. The design used in 1979 remained faithful to Flanagan's original work, though subtle modifications had occurred over the decades, such as changes in rim thickness, relief, and sharpening of details to improve striking clarity. These changes were often the result of updates to minting technology and routine die refinements, not major redesigns. The obverse portrait of Washington continued to be iconic, representing leadership and historical legacy, while the eagle on the reverse reinforced national identity and tradition. The simplicity and symbolism of the design kept it popular among the public, even as collectors debated whether a new modern design should eventually replace it. Another aspect that makes 1979 interesting is the broader coin collecting environment. Of the late 1970s, when collectors were growing more enthusiastic about varieties, errors, and small differences in coins, minting quality during the decade was sometimes inconsistent, leading to minor variations in strike sharpness, coin alignment, or die wear. While the 1979 quarter is not known for major dramatic varieties, collectors often look for strong strikes, proof-like surfaces, and high-grade examples in mint state conditions. Quarters from circulation typically experienced heavy wear, making high-grade survivors more desirable, especially those with clean fields, strong luster, and minimal contact marks. Proof coins from 1979 struck at the San Francisco Mint were made using polished dies and planchets to achieve a mirror-like finish. These coins were sold in annual proof sets and became favorites among collectors due to their sharp details, frosted devices, and brilliant reflective surfaces. The San Francisco Mint placed emphasis on quality control for proof production, which resulted in beautifully produced examples, though occasional imperfections or cameo strength differences still attract collector attention today. Because proof coins were not meant for circulation, they represent the highest quality version of the 1979 Washington quarter. Economically, the United States in the late 1970s faced inflation, rising costs of living, and changes in consumer spending, which impacted the demand for circulating coinage. The Mint increased quarter production to keep up with vending, machines, transportation systems, and everyday transactions. The 1979 quarter therefore reflects a period of growing reliance on coin-operated systems in American life. From payphones to bus fares, laundromats, and parking meters, the quarter became one of the most heavily used denominations, and the Mint responded with large production numbers to meet national needs. From a historical perspective, the 1979 Washington quarter also sits at the threshold of major coinage changes that would unfold in the following decades. Just 2 decades later, the reverse of the Washington quarter would change dramatically with the introduction of the State Quarters program in 1999, making earlier issues like the 1979 quarter part of a long era of the classic Eagle reverse collectors today. Look back at these pre-state quarters as the traditional style coins that defined American currency for over 60 years. In terms of rarity and value, most 1979 quarters hold their face value in circulated condition because so many were made, but high-grade mint state coins certified by grading services can command higher premiums. Coins graded MS-65, MS-66, or above are less common due to contact marks, bag handling, and normal minting practices. Even more valuable are high-grade proof coins with strong cameo contrast from San Francisco, which appeal to serious collectors who seek visually striking examples. Although not a rare date, the 1979 quarter plays an important role In understanding the evolution of the series and the standards of modern minting, the legacy of the 1979 Washington Quarter is rooted in continuity, technological progress, and nationwide utility. It represents a time when the Washington Quarter stood as a stable and trusted coin used by millions every day, while also maintaining a quiet presence in coin collections and mint sets. Its design durability and historical placement make it an essential entry in the timeline of American numismatics. For this documentary, this coin offers a rich story of history production, design, public use, and collector significance, showing how even a common date like 1979 can reveal deep connections to American culture, minting traditions, and economic change. The story of the Washington Quarter in 1979 becomes even more meaningful when exploring the deeper context of American coinage development and the way the mint operated during that era. The 1970s were a decade of transition for the United States Mint, as it adopted more advanced machinery, automated processes, and improved die-making techniques. These improvements influenced the appearance, consistency, and durability of coins, including the 1979 quarter. Before this period, minting involved more manual oversight and slower production methods, but by 1979, the mint was moving toward higher output efficiency and greater uniformity, which explains the enormous quantities of quarters that entered circulation that year.